Well, new UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer's made his debut on the world stage today. I was watching it this morning. He had a rather awkward meeting with President Joe Biden today. Of course, that was all part of the 75th NATO summit. Starmer was heralding the UK's continued backing for Kyiv, and he held bilateral talks with his European and Western counterparts. Joining me now, our longest-serving Foreign Minister, Alexander Downer, joins us. Great to catch up with you again. Big moment, I guess, for the new British PM to be in the White House talking to the US President?
Yes, it is, but he's got up to a good start. He said all the right things and in particular demonstrated the support the UK is providing to Ukraine, and that's an important message for him to deliver straight away because his predecessors, there were quite a lot of them, his predecessors were very determined to support Ukraine, and so it's a good start for Starmer.
What's it like when you turn up at the White House and have an audience with the serving president of the US? You would have done it?
I have. Yes, it sounds childish to say it, but it's very exciting. There's no doubt about it. The President of the United States is not just the President of that country, but the leader of the free world. And if you've got half an hour to spend with the leader of the free world, it's a huge opportunity, which I found when I was the Foreign Minister with George W. Bush. An opportunity to say you really can't say on behalf of your country and try to persuade the President to do the right thing you want him to do.
Alexander, on the UK election itself, it was the nightmare that everyone was predicting. The Conservatives were smashed, and I know they've got 5-year terms in the UK, but boy, it's a long way back for them, isn't it?
It is a long way back for them. They'll have to re-energise themselves, not just in attacking the government of the day, and it's important oppositions do that effectively, but they need to start thinking through what they stand for again, and if they can do that successfully over the next couple of years, they'll start to rebuild public support. But they lost a lot of public support by being so unsuccessful on handling the issue of immigration, by spending too much money, by running up huge public debt, partly because of the COVID crisis, admittedly, but they didn't leave the country in as good a shape as Conservative voters would have expected them to, and a lot of Conservative voters either stayed at home or some of them defected to support the insurgent party of Nigel Farage, which is called Reform.
I wanted to talk to you about immigration. I mean, you spend a lot of time in the UK. You've seen what's been happening across the English Channel, and you're uniquely positioned because you were in the middle of the Tampa affair. Two things here. Does the new Labor PM Steer have any appetite to secure the borders? I mean, is he going to get tough on this stuff?
Well, it's a bit like the election of the Rudd government after the Howard government. They abandoned the offshore processing scheme we'd set up in Nauru, and what Starmer has done is abandon the Rwanda plan, which was a plan for offshore processing as well, to provide a disincentive for people to cross the channel, courtesy of people smugglers. So he will find that they will continue to come in large numbers, and he'll have to start thinking again about how to stop that. But yeah, I mean, there are two things about immigration. One of them is it's not that they're against immigration. They want to have regulated and controlled immigration. And in the UK, it's been pretty uncontrolled in recent years. And secondly, they want migrants, when they come to the country, to integrate into the country and to adopt the basic values of the country. And the Conservatives weren't very successful in dealing with that issue either. You saw the Labor Party vote was only 34%. They lost 5 seats. The 5 seats that the Labor Party lost in an election that they won were seats that were won by independent Muslim candidates, Muslim activists, who were campaigning against the Labor Party's policy on Gaza. And so this is a dangerous thing. And you've seen not the same, but similar issues in France as well, and in Germany and Italy and the Netherlands and so on. And unless European countries, and for that matter, the United States, where I am at the moment, get on top of these issues, they'll find that more and more people will defect to populist political movements which are determined to try to integrate migrants and stop illegal immigration. I mean, that's the key to it all.
Yeah, and I think Anthony Albanese is going to face a similar problem, Alexander, with the potential of some Muslim independence in our next election. Just before you go, can I ask you about the NATO summit in Washington, D.C.? You would have worked closely with NATO in your time when you were foreign minister. How important is that alliance that it holds together, given what we're witnessing in Ukraine from Russia?
Well, it's the single most important of all the Western alliances, and it's critically important that they show a sense of unity, and in the context of Ukraine, show a determination to support not just the Ukrainians, but to make sure the Russians are defeated, because that will send a message to other countries which are determined to undermine the position of the West. Iran, of course, with all its surrogates in the Middle East, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and so on. They are just Iranian surrogates. And also, most importantly to us, China, to make sure China understands that whilst the West is happy to collaborate with China and work with China, it will not tolerate China acting in a way which uses its political and economic weight and military weight to change the status quo. And so the NATO alliance is very important in that context. And I mean, they're all saying the right thing, but they have to make sure, all of the members, that they spend sufficiently on defence, that they provide defence support to the Ukrainians, and that there is a sense of harmony amongst them.
Alexander Downer, always a pleasure to catch up. Thank you very much.
It's a great pleasure.